Hi and welcome to yet another episode. This one is about the MiSTer. That's the capital M, small I, capital ST, small ER. It can be thought about as a multi-core system / computer / arcade machine. Cores basically means the different CPUs or systems that the MiSTer can become. The main interest is that it can play many different games from many different systems, but all from the one box. I'll let the different cores scroll on by, but as you're reading them you should know that more are coming out all the time and lots are being improved upon. For example, the Neo Geo is doing well so far in its beta stages. As the MiSTer's own GitHub website states, it's a port of the MIST project which focused mainly on the Atari ST, though it too can do other things as well now. The MiSTer uses a Triassic DE10 Nano board. Some say DE10 Nano, but I'll just be calling it DE10 Nano. In itself it brings a larger FPGA and faster ARM chips than what the MiST has. Though it is advisable to pimp your MiSTer out with an extra memory, an I/O board, a USB hub and an RTC board just to get the most out of it. Then also throw in a Wi-Fi dongle just for the cherry on top really. All of that doesn't come with a case, so just to help keep the dust off and no silly electrical shorts, a 3D printed case is a good idea as well. So fair fight, what's an FPGA when it's at home, you may ask? Well, that kind of depends on who you talk to, it seems. FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array. It's basically a chip of wonder. It can be programmed to be pretty much anything you want it to be, chip-wise. Then you can scrap that, start again, and then do that again. In the realms of being a real CPU from many moons ago, is it the real thing? Is it simulation? Is it emulation? Well, that kind of comes down to semantics in my humble opinion. And here's why. It's a chip all of its own right, that's for sure. It can be programmed to be a certain way, which in our case is to match that of a retro computer, console, or even an arcade machine. I'm not talking of the operating system nor the game ROM itself. I'm talking about the physical aspects of the chips used themselves. So all the AND and OR and NAND gates and so on can be programmed by the way that they were in many chips on the motherboard into one chip. So yes, like for like, it can be set up so the actual programming of the operating system, the programs or the games, wouldn't know any difference. So is it a simulation? It's acting as the real yesteryear device, but it isn't the actual real thing, so surely it just comes under simulation. Then the problem lies with the very clever coders who make an FPGA act a certain way. They don't always get it 100% correct when replicating a retro system, so it's close, but not close enough. So is it just emulation? That's where the semantics come in for me. It's all of that, all at the same time, and it comes down to how you understand what like for like, or simulation, or emulation actually mean. Some people like to throw in what the end user experience is like. Do they get to use the same keyboard, screen, mouse and so on? Personally, that's moving over to a physical aspect rather than what the FPGA is doing itself, and shouldn't be pulled into the argument. No matter which side of the fence you sit on, we can all agree that FPGAs are a great bit of kit. That, for those who can program them, can do amazing things with them. And for people like me, it means we can get to play with lots of fancy gadgets that have new tech in them, which hopefully isn't going to fail at any time soon. And also get to play around with the systems we wouldn't normally get our hands on, for a lot cheaper price. So in the end, just know that FPGAs are cool and we can have the is it real, is it the simulation, or is it emulation argument while zapping the bad guys and saving the universe. Feel free to discuss what's what in the comments down below. Thankfully the ARM chip is a little bit more straightforward in that it's already a designed CPU. ARM standing for originally Acorn RISC machines. Yes, that's the same people that made the BBC, the Electron and the Archimedes computers, as well as some other products. This later changed to the Advanced RISC machine and then on to simply ARM. So from that time frame, ARM chips have been around for many years now. You most likely have used them in your smartphones, your tablets, and might not even realised it. They're also used in things like the Raspberry Pi. There's an interesting history in the ARM chips all by themselves, which I'll let you research yourself on the internet. After you've watched this video, of course. Now let's get back to the MiSTer itself. As I mentioned before, the main part is a Triassic DE10 Nano. These can be picked up for around £100, $130 or €120. If you're in education, you might be able to get an academic discount, so make sure you check that out if you are. From here you can get going with a microSD card setup. All the instructions to do that are on the MiSTer GitHub pages, which I'll leave a link to down below. Then you'll need some ROM files. Some will be CPU ROMs and others will be game ROMs. Both of these I'll leave to you to figure out on your own, for your own country's laws, your own moral standing, and basically where to get them. Without them though, you'll be pretty much stuck in most cases. If you've ever set up a Linux distro for the Raspberry Pi, you'll be at home setting a microSD card up. It's kind of the same thing really. If you haven't, then don't worry. The mere fact you've managed to find yourself watching this video means you've most likely got enough skills to get going. If not though, just get someone who has got a little bit more knowledge about such matters and get them to help you. Doing the updates at a later date are actually quite easy, so you shouldn't worry about that either. Either way, as long as you follow the step-by-step guide, you really can't go far wrong. I highly recommend that you don't use the microSD card that comes with the Nano. It's fun to look at, but I personally just use it to make sure the Nano was working before I invested time setting up my own microSD card for the Mister. So get yourself a microSD card especially for the Mister. I recommend at the very least you use a 64GB microSD card. Personally, I'm using a 256GB one, only because I wanted to fit as much as possible onto it. If you do start running out of space, you can always use a powered USB OTG hub, which then you can use a USB thumb drive to store extra data. Sure, you could get going with just an 8GB card, but what's the point if you really want to use lots of different cores and lots of different games? Now, with the basic setup, not all the cores will run, so you might want to pimp out the Mister like I have, so you can get all the fun of the cores all available to you. I'm not saying you must get all the extra parts, but it'll help you in the long run for those who want to play around with all the different cores. This means buying extra parts. You can either get the schematics and build your own, or like me, find a local or not so local maker and purchase from them. Again, I'll leave a link to some friendly neighbourhood makers in the description, since the link to them under the GitHub site doesn't really jump out at you. So you've got your Nano board, a microSD card all set up, now what? Depending on your country will depend on the PSU you can use. Sure, you can get converters and adapters to use the one that comes with a Nano, but it's just easier to get a good one with your country's PSU ratings and then the correct plug at both ends. You'll need something that outputs 5V at 2A with a positive centre for the plug that goes into the Mister. Speaking of which, it needs to be a 5.5mm type. I've read that people don't like that the stock PSU doesn't have an inline switch, and have bought others that do, or added one of their own. Others have said it's a bad idea, and some even say that the Mister won't get enough power because of it. Personally, I swapped mine out for a 5V 3A PSU with a UK plug. It all works fine. Apart from a keyboard and a mouse, and of course the good idea to throw in a gamepad or a joystick, there's some extras you might want to get as well. The first extra will be a USB OTG hub of some sort, so you can hook up your keyboard, your mouse, your gamepad and so on. But of course you want to do all that at the same time. So it's kind of a must. Personally, I'd get a powered one, OTG standing for on the go, and you must look out for it on the USB hub that you're buying to make sure it is OTG compatible. The second extra you'll most likely be chasing is the extra memory. Some of the cores do need it. Then there's the I/O board. This gives you a 3.5mm stereo audio, digital audio, a VGA connector, 3 buttons, 3 status LEDs, a fan to help cool the FPGA, an expansion port, and a secondary microSD card slot which can come in handy for the different cores, and some case points to help fit your 3D printed case. And if you really want to, you can pick up a battery pack-up RTC, or a real-time clock, which can come in handy, but I'm guessing most people won't be bothered with that one. But hey, time you've spent so much money, you might as well get one thrown in as well. To help keep it together, a case is a good idea. I bought a case online, but that was before I purchased my own 3D printer. I got the case from Thingiverse and then sent it to an online 3D printer company. Yet again, I'll leave the information down in the description for you to read later. By all means though, come up with your own fancy designs, adapt to other people's even, but it is a good idea to get your own case. All in all, there isn't a lot of change from £250, but it does get you going on lots of different systems. I realise you've been watching me play Sonic pretty badly, but what I want to do is create yet another video showing you the menu system and how to load different games and how to load different cores, and also the guts of the Mister that I currently have. If there's any other questions you have in the meantime, please feel free to leave them in the comments so that I know to add them into the next video. Until then, happy gaming!